opening up the scene with some dance moves that no one will ever see unless they're watching on YouTube. Cam, how you doing today?
Doing great. And they better be watching on YouTube. That's where the magic happens.
Is that where the most money is?
Well, no. Well, I mean, that's up for debate, but that's where I put in the most effort on the video editing side of the biz.
Got it. Let me clarify, because I'm always the one who's like, we got to get this monetized. We got to have money. But I'm not here for the money. But
Kirk's
I do
just
often...
a mustache twirling Snidely Whiplash over there. He's like, yeah, see?
I just want to clarify that, because Cam often sounds like the heart, and I often sound like the miser because of that.
When in reality, it's the exact opposite, probably.
I'm just trying to like peacock, like, yo, where's our money at? We're gonna get our money from monetization and the business side, when you are actually the master of all things there. So now that that's out of the way, I just want to say welcome to Spilled Popcorn.
Yes.
This is the Popcorn for Breakfast companion podcast to all the latest and greatest in streaming television. And currently we are diving deep into the MCU series Hawkeye.
Caca!
For those of you only listening by ears, Cam made a wonderful hawk movement.
I did. Flapping my wings. Angels in the outfield.
Yes. Yes, we have the same mind. I already said his name, but just in case you missed it, just in case this is your first time selecting this podcast and you said, you know what, I just watched episode 4 of Hawkeye and I need to digest this with some random strangers that will soon become my best friends to my ears. It's the man with the plan and the year-round tan, your co-host, Cam.
What's up? I appreciate that, Kirk.
You got it. And I am his pale Irish co-host, Kirk. It's nice to see you all.
Oh, yeah.
With that, let's talk about Hawkeye, episode 4, Partners, right?
Yes.
This episode is quite spectacular. You know, there was a meme going around that Marvel had put out that said a review about a near perfect episode of television for episode 3. And you could say the same about episode 4, I think. What are your thoughts, Cam?
I think 4 was better than 3. I think 4 is my favorite episode of the series. Like I think it was just about perfect in every way. Like I thought it was fun. I thought it was light. It moved the plot forward in a really intriguing way. They threw in some curveballs. They threw in a cliffhanger. Like it has everything you could ever want.
Cliffhanger after cliffhanger after cliffhanger. I mean, if we get out of this series without a cliffhanger, especially on the 6th episode, I will be shocked.
Just imagine what the cliffhanger on the 6th episode is going to be. Like,
oh my gosh.
If they've had a cliffhanger for every end of episode, the finale is going to be the mother of all cliffhangers for sure.
And so if this series ends, the final episode airs after No Way Home, Spider-Man No Way Home. The next Marvel iteration, is it the Marvels in February?
No.
We just received a release date of February 17th.
I think that's 2023.
Oh my goodness.
I think it's Multiverse of Madness.
Okay.
Next.
All right.
I'll verify that while we're chatting here. But yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm just throwing all these curveballs at you. I am just so curious as to what comes next, what cliffhanger that we are just dangling on until we finally get to a seemingly resolve. I mean, it could be six different Marvel shows / movies before we get the full answer to that cliffhanger. But I mean, as it shows so far, cliffhanger every single episode.
Yep. No doubt. And so, yeah, it looks like we've got there's a bunch of unannounced dates going on here, but it looks like the next one will be Multiverse of Madness. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's May 6th. So they do this thing where they do like 1 year they'll have a February release. They started this with sort of like Black Panther. And then the next year they'll do a May release, and they kind of alternate like so. And so this year we don't get another Marvel film until May because we got a bunch stacked up in the back half of this year with delays and stuff like that. But I would bet that we get a Marvel show in between this and Multiverse of Madness, like potentially Miss Marvel, I would guess. I think Moon Knight will be coming out around the same time as Multiverse of Madness, which like that summer window. But I think Miss Marvel they'll probably squeak in here pretty soon.
Okay, excellent. And also, we're all hoping that we get an announcement for Daredevil season 4 or season 1 on Disney Plus as soon as No Way Home drops. That would be super exciting.
Awesome.
I love it. Okay, so let's get into the butter of this episode. We loved this episode. It was just really incredible. I would agree with you, Cam. This was a stronger episode for me as well than episode 3, even though episode 3 was also, as they said, near perfect. You could say that this one was a perfect episode, except for the beginning, Cam. We left our cliffhanger on episode 3, and then we just sit down. We have the retractable knife to Hawkeye's throat. No fight scene. We're drinking tea. We're eating crumpets at the beginning of this episode. Were you as angry as I was?
I knew it was going to go one of two ways with the whole Jack Duquesne thing. Like, they either know each other or they don't, right? Meaning him and Clint. And the quick answer was they don't. And maybe that's just because Clint has never seen him unmasked or something like that. Though, you know, Swordsman in the comics, he wears a cowl of sorts, but it varies from time to time. But maybe they have tangled before, but he doesn't recognize him unmasked. But yeah, Jack's making all the right plays right now. You know, I think he caught Clint sneaking around his house. If he knows him or not, he knows that his best play right now is to play it cool and be like, oh, wow, what are you doing here? You know, just play it like really cool. Don't escalate things. Keep it calm and figure out how much you can figure out. You know, like if you don't arise suspicion, you can ask questions. And that's exactly what he's trying to do here. And I think that as a character, he played his hand perfectly, though I was definitely wanting some sort of battle right out the gate here.
Right. Even if it was just a small kerfuffle, but we see no transition into them just whining and dining them and interrogating them, which is fine because that scene played out very nicely. But I'm just like, what? Why? I wanted more. I wanted the fight scene. I wanted a small kerfuffle. But alas, I can move on. We do get a desperate plea at the end of this conversation as Clint's like, I gotta go. I got stuff to do. Vera, the mom, and her character name again?
Eleanor.
Yeah. She walks Clint to the door or to the elevator because they're loaded. And she says to leave her daughter out of this world of Avenger level threats. It's a plea / threat. I saw it more as the threat.
Yeah. At the very end, it's the very end of her exchange with Clint that it's revealed that she has another thing going here, which is her saying, so you're going to drop the case, right?
So you'll forget this case?
I can't do that. But what I can do is ensure that your daughter stays safe. Okay?
You know, like she wanted to make sure she was leaving that conversation knowing if he was going to continue to pursue it or get out. It starts as her saying, I can't have anything happen to my daughter, which Clint is immediately like, of course, you know, I mean, he's going through all this family stuff right now. He's lost Nat. He's lost other people. And so it's weighing heavy on his heart. So when he hears that, he's like, I need to take this dead seriously. Like, this is somebody's daughter. But at the end, when she says, so you're going to move on from this case, right? Like, you're going to drop it. And he's like, he gives kind of like a non-answer. That to me showed that she's working something here for sure.
Yes. It's quite the nice dance. And then also he gets into the elevator and he just shows that he got the retractable knife. So we don't know. Did we see him like lift it, or was it just like he? Yeah.
You see him kind of like they do show him acquire it, and then they show it at the end that he got it. So yeah,
he snatches it. Yeah. So it's wonderful because he's like, thank goodness I got my sword back. Because dude, that's a sick sword. I want him to use that for the rest of his time in the MCU because it's so good. All right. So next up that happens that we see is some wonderful, well, I digress. We get this wonderful like heart to heart of Jack Duquesne manipulating the Bishop family some more. I mean, it gets Kate hard. She's like, man, I love my mom so much. I've never seen her excited to dance with anyone. Look how warm she is, because she's normally a cold-hearted woman. And this is very exciting to see her wheels turn. In a way, I really hope it's true. I don't think it is, but I really hope it's true. One twist that would be nice for me would be if Eleanor is the only bad guy and Jack has just been manipulated into this, because as we hear, as Clint's family is doing some back end searching and finding and research, is that he is the CEO of a shell company that is funding the tracksuit mafia.
Yeah, I think with the dynamic between Eleanor and Jack is really interesting to unravel, because first of all, I'm under the impression that they're running a parallel scheme, meaning that they're in on something together, just because I think that is the easiest explanation for their sudden romance, him coming into play, Armand's death by sword, like all of that starts to really click together. But I think at the same time, like there is a realness to it. I think Eleanor really does want this, and I think that she wants Kate to be a part of it. Like I think she really, I think on a human level, an emotional level, she really wants to be a part of it. And I think for a second, Kate was like, man, it would be really nice if this whole Jack thing was not legit. Of course, that rug, like you said, quickly gets pulled out from underneath her whenever they find out that there's basically a front that's involved in this whole organization. So it's funding the tracksuit mafia. So it's going to be a very interesting human dynamic to sort of unravel by the end of this, or maybe it doesn't unravel by the end of this. Maybe there's more to this story. Maybe there is room for a Hawkeye season 2 that's just the Kate Bishop show, and I think that's a possibility as well. I
have this love theory that he has no idea that definitely he has a past, because why can he do the things he does? Why was he already independently wealthy when he's coming into this relationship? And Eleanor is pulling all the strings, and the bottom's going to fall out. He's going to find out, going to be ticked. It's going to resurface like, I was trying to go straight. I was trying to be a good guy, and he's going to lose it. And that's where that sometimes good guy, sometimes bad guy is going to surface again for him as the swordsman. So it was like it was dormant, and now it's been awakened. Hey,
that's plausible. I'll buy that. I mean, I could see them going that way for sure. I think there's a lot of different ways they could go. It's very open ended right now.
That's my excitement, and I am excited to see that play out. We get this fantastic segment, possibly my favorite part of the segment, the most heartwarming, where Kate realizes, oh, I'm here with my family. This is really sweet. But what about Clint? His family is miles and miles away. He's alone. And she goes and she spends time with him, strategizing on their mission, but ultimately like bonding in a daughter-son kind of way.
Hey. Hey. Get out of there.
All right, this is the classic Hawkeye costume we've been waiting for.
What is all this?
This is me saving the holidays.
And I just want to know, what were some of your favorite moments from what was happening in there in the apartment?
Well, I love that they're watching It's a Wonderful Life. I love that they showed a clip of that. That's one of my favorites. And the way that they tied it into the plot as like a subtextual type of thing, him holding all of his kids, Janie and all of them, just snuggling in. And I love the coin flicking thing. I love the gamesmanship. It's like such a necessary part of their relationship, because at the bottom of it all, like they're just archers and they just want to do cool archery things and they just want to talk about it. Like this is what happens. Like I always think about when I was in marching band or like band in school, like you get a bunch of musicians together. What do they talk about? Music. Like it's dumb and cliche, but it's true. Like people who love that stuff just want to get into it. And so them doing the, like, I can flick a quarter and turn off the TV by bouncing it off 3 things. Like, that's amazing. And then Kate figures out how to do it. Like it was all great. It was all very well done and really nice and easy, not over the top character development. Like that's exactly how it should be done. It was natural. It was genuine. It was warm. It was perfect.
It was. There are 2 big things that happen in this as well. They weave this relationship building. We already have so much of a glimpse of them, but this one really brought it home to really solidify who they are together. And 2 things that really stood out to me throughout all of that were that they're talking about the trick arrows and they're strategizing. They say there are no more trick arrows. There are no more trick arrows, Cam. Where did they come from? We don't have a definition. And why are there no more? Is Hank Pym dead? Go.
I don't think Hank Pym's dead, but I think that it's possible the trick arrows came from a past engagement with Hank Pym and the like. I mean, we don't really know where Hank Pym stands on the whole Avengers situation these days now, because if you remember way back to Ant-Man and the Wasp, he was none too pleased with the way that things went down with Scott Lang kind of blowing up his spot and making it so that he couldn't live his nice quiet life working on his stuff anymore, trying to save his wife. I mean, that all seemed to get resolved, and obviously Ant-Man and the Wasp are in good standing, but it remains to be seen where Hank is on all of this. So it's possible that he's like, listen, this superhero gig, I'm not for it anymore, and Hawkeye doesn't feel like he can approach him about stuff like that.
That's right. And I guess, they disappeared in the blip.
Yep.
Right? Him and his wife. And
the Wasp.
And the Wasp. So he's probably pretty ticked at anything Avengers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if anybody's got a gripe, I think it's him. But he was also, his tech was responsible for saving the day, ultimately. I mean, it was all his stuff and Scott Lang coming back from the quantum realm that made it possible for everything to get reversed. So
yes. So there's a lot there that I need more in these next 2 episodes. Only 2 more episodes.
I know.
I need to know the origin. Maybe he got it as Ronin. Maybe he went to their site, their HQ, and lifted it. And maybe they just haven't touched base since Endgame. It's very possible. Very possible.
Definitely.
So that stood out to me. And then, of course, that Kate connects Ronin to Clint.
Yeah.
Like a baller.
Yeah, she figured it out on her own, which was cool, because I think Kate is very, we talked about it last time, very bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to this whole world of the Avengers. But I think that moment where she puts it together, it shows you her potential and that she really can be a complete hero on her own. She's not just a kid. She was able to pick up, pull together the pieces and put it together, something that Maya hasn't done yet. I mean, she's obviously close based on what's going on at the end of the episode, but other people haven't put together either. She was able to put the pieces together to figure out that it was actually Clint that was Ronin all along. So I think that that's part of her development as a hero more so than anything else.
Just quick post-production note here. When you are looking at all of this, can you add the song secretly at a low level so they can't find us in the algorithm that says, I'm just a kid and life is a nightmare.
And here it goes. I'm just a kid and life is a nightmare.
Yeah, for
That'd
sure.
be great. Just
Absolutely.
add that in. I would think that this episode then takes a fantastic turn into the Rolex. We hear about it right out the gate, where Linda Cardellini is hunting for it. She figures out Jack Duquesne. There's lots of threads going on, and they say, you got to get this Rolex. Do we think the Rolex is tied to Natasha?
No, I mean, I don't personally, just because it's not her vibe, and I think that there's a couple things that are said that are really interesting regarding the Rolex. First of all, that Laura Barton cares about this, why does she care? I think we could speculate as to why in a little bit, but that's interesting. Another interesting part is that what Clint says, that is, he's very specific in his wording. He basically says that this person who it belonged to is out of the action now, but if it was discovered, it would put this person in immediate danger. So they're still around, but they're out of the action. Is there anybody in the Avengers that has just sort of stepped out on their own regard that's still alive and still vulnerable? Not that I know of.
Well, then let's get into the crumbs and speculate. That's our special effects sound now to get into the crumbs.
Love it. So can I give my theory?
Do it.
And this may be a long shot, but so what's really interesting about Clint in the entire MCU is that his character past and sort of biography is very different than what happens in the comics in a lot of ways. And I think that it's that way for a lot of reasons. I think one is that they wanted to go in a different direction with this character, because when you've had a character that's been around as long as Clint Barton has in the comics, crazy things have happened. I mean, usually they've been killed and revived and killed again and revived again. I mean, in Clint's case, that's absolutely true. He gets killed by Wanda at some point and then brought back to life during the House of M situation. And there's also, he's got this different relationship in the MCU where we've got Laura Barton. She's never in the comics, and he doesn't have kids in the comics. I mean, his only relationship, it's very notable, is with a hero named Mockingbird. And Bobby Morse is the name of the woman. They end up getting divorced over time. Superhero relationships tend to be pretty messy, but my outside theory is that maybe Laura Barton is the MCU's Mockingbird, and maybe maybe that's what they're trying to avoid. Like maybe they were both superheroes and they decided to start a family, and Clint decided to continue in the superhero game, but Laura decided to take a step back. And so they're worried about anything connected to Laura being tied back because she's still alive. And that puts their whole family in danger, which he's been able to create this nice sort of bubble up until, Maya does all of her research. He's been really able to create this really nice, safe place for his family where they're not in the line of fire. And so the only thing I can think of that they would be that concerned about is if it's actually Laura's watch or something tied to Laura to where it could blow up her spot, and all of a sudden their whole family's at risk.
Well, that is a beautiful dot connection. I want to know if Barbara Morse, if she was, were they speaking German at the beginning?
They were speaking German.
German. Okay.
Yeah. So they were speaking German. I guess that's their predetermined code language so that the kids don't understand. So that was clever, but yeah, it wasn't Russian, which would have been very interesting, but yeah, I think I don't know if they want to tie Clint back to that just because there's, it would be a different character name, a very different Mockingbird than anything we've seen in the comics, but that I still think it's in play. But what makes it kind of outside of play a little bit in my mind is, the real life stuff. Like Linda Cardellini has not been super involved up till now. I feel like they're paving the way for Jeremy Renner to sort of exit the MCU, at least for the most part, maybe cameo appearances here and there going forward, but to sort of go the way of like Robert Downey Jr. and others, Chris Evans, etc. And I think that's what I sort of expected this series to be about. So I don't know how much sense it makes to reveal that Laura Barton has been Mockingbird the whole time, but in a lot of ways, it's the only thing that makes sense in terms of the story. Though there are of course other options. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it puts Tony's family in danger if it's his watch or something. I don't really know. It's hard to tell.
I am very, very interested in that thread. I need to know more and all of it because that threw me through a loop. My head is spinning right now.
Well, who else could it be, Kirk? I mean, really, like I said,
Captain.
There's nobody else in the Avengers who has just sort of stepped away of their own accord that we've seen on screen. There could be other off-screen characters that have not been revealed yet. That could be
That's true.
in harm's way, past. But the Avengers were formed in the MCU. Like we saw the first iteration of the Avengers. So this would have to be some sort of like old SHIELD agent or something, like somebody that Clint knew prior to the Avengers Initiative when he was working for Nick Fury or something.
Captain America.
You mean Steve Rogers, Captain America?
I do mean Steve Rogers, Captain America.
Old man Steve?
Old man Steve.
I like that. I could buy that. I
don't know why he has a Rolex, but I think it's
I mean, wouldn't Captain America have a Rolex? Like probably at some point in his life. Yeah, that's a viable option. He's still out there. Old man Steve and Peggy, they're out there, right? Somewhere in the universe. So sure, somebody could come for him, I guess.
That's what I want it to be. This Rolex gets discovered that it was in the box of things that were recovered, saved that should have been destroyed in the Avengers compound come Infinity War and Endgame. And that's where we see Kate going in because she actually butts her way into getting into the apartment, which turns out to be Maya's apartment or one of Maya's locations. We can speculate that she probably has a couple different places that she lives in. And the Rolex, she snags it at the end of this big fight. Does she still have this Rolex? I think she is in possession of it when she leaves that apartment.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe she has it.
And we have this, again, kerfluffle. It's my buzzword for the day. Her kerfluffle with Maya and with the big fight scene. And we'll reveal it in just a moment, even though you already know. We see her and Clint fight on the rooftop and get in an argument. And she walks away like, hey, Clint, did you check her pocket? Because she's got that Rolex that you went there to find. So we can only assume that he's going to chase immediately after her or forget about it because he just ran into, Yelena Belova on the roof who was kicking his butt. Let's talk about her. let's talk about Florence Pugh popping into this episode. Do we think that he knows Yelena?
I do not think so.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think so because I feel like he would have, if he does, he's never seen her, right? Because he hasn't connected the dots, but he definitely recognizes her fighting style. He's like, somebody sent a Black Widow assassin, somebody's hired a Black Widow assassin. Things just got really real, I think is what he said. So I don't think he knows her. She certainly doesn't know him, right? Based off of the end scene from the Black Widow movie, the end credits scene with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Like, she's not aware of him. So I don't think he knows that she's connected to Nat at all.
I agree with that as well. Yeah, it makes it more fascinating because obviously she is targeting them. She's targeting, at least the Rolex. Maybe she's targeting Maya, and she found them. And she's like, no, what's going on? We don't know her full agenda, as is always with Black Widow assassins.
I think she's only after Clint, man. I think it's all Clint driven. I think, her happening upon Maya and ending up in sort of this dual fighting situation with Maya was totally happenstance and her just rolling with the punches, because she doesn't really go after Kate Bishop until Kate makes her presence known with like the flashbang arrow thing that she shoots. So cool. And then Yelena does the coolest jump off the roof jump that I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, yeah, that was the most Black Widow thing ever, and it was amazing. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I really do think that there are dual paths here. I think the Maya situation, the Yelena situation, and Kate Bishop are all, this whole series, the thesis of this series is like, let's have Hawkeye come to terms with his career and his past decisions. And there they are, 3 of them right there. Maya's dad dies. She's after him. Kate's dad dies, and she sees Hawkeye saving the city, so she's connected to him at the waist. And then Yelena thinks that he has something to do with Nat's death, and Clint has to try to talk his way out of that, presumably at some point. So, yeah, he's in quite the triangle there.
Yeah, for anyone who thought that Hawkeye didn't have deep ties in Marvel, wrong indeed. So she's got the Rolex. Florence Pugh is in the game. Of course, this could be the first or one of the first assignments from Valentina Allegra herself. So hopefully we get to see her come in and give more assignments, have some conversations, because we have had plenty of asides that weren't always from Jeremy Renner's perspective, right? We get Maya's whole backstory. So when we talk about narrative, there's oftentimes the direction of a show or a movie where the audience is privy to certain information. So in this particular show, we're getting perspectives from both sides, from the villains and from our heroes. So there's a very good chance that we could get some introspective details from Valentina leading her pack with Walker, with Florence Pugh, with all of the other people she's collected and is collecting along the way. And that would be pretty cool coming up in one of the future episodes.
Yeah, and I have to assume that there's going to be a post-credit, maybe 2 post-credit scenes at the end of this whole situation. One I'll theorize being the reveal of the Kingpin, and the other being Val collecting another recruit into her army of misfit heroes. Like that's the thing, is whenever you start to analyze who could be the next pin to fall, it could be Echo. It could be Echo, because the qualifications for her team seem to be that they start out bad and then they sort of become good, but don't really know what it means to be good. And so Val is sort of taking advantage of their wanting to do good and going to use them for her own little initiative here. And so I think if we continue down this path, it's possible that Echo realizes that Hawkeye is not worth chasing down anymore. Either he wasn't the one who killed her dad, or he saves her life, or what have you. And now she's left with like nowhere to go. And Val swoops in to grab her. I think that that's definitely a possibility. So I think we'll see Val before the series is over, even if it's just in a post-credit scene.
Excellent. I got a couple of quick hitters here, and they're kind of like 2-parters in a way as well. So in the initial Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, we see Spider-Man, of course, whipping through the city as he does. And then in a later trailer, and I don't know if this has been doctored or not, I hope it has not, but in a later trailer, we actually see, if you are eagle eye enough, the Rogers the Musical listed on a billboard in Times Square where he's swinging from. Now, we didn't get a chance to talk about Rogers the Musical because there was so much else going on. That drops in episode 1 where Clint is forced to go to this. He has to make an appearance. He hates the whole thing. I'm shocked that we didn't talk about it because we also saw Adam Pascal live in St. Louis.
And then there he was, and he was also in Tick, Tick, Boom. We saw Adam Pascal twice on a show, or a movie, and then a show, and then a live production within a week. That was so random.
And I mean, he is flooded with just sentiments with me now, and I really want that musical to happen. A and B, have you seen that clip? Have you seen that side by side running online? Okay, yeah. Is it real? Does it seem real?
I think it does seem real, and
it seems like it was removed initially, to not give it away, and now it's there, right?
Yeah, and I want to see more of Rogers the Musical because there's some weirdness going on with that whole musical, especially since it appears to be post-blip because Ant-Man was at the Battle of New York in that musical, because Hawkeye even makes a comment and was like, wait, I was there. That guy wasn't there. He was talking about Scott Lang. And so there could be more multiversal reveals going on there, or at least things that changed, because Ant-Man would have been there when they traveled back in time during the whole in-game scenario. So I think it's possible that the Rogers the Musical thing is just a quick little cameo, like Easter egg for the fans to see as he swings through the city, but maybe it's something more. Who knows?
Right, because if that's the case, it is currently in its run when Spider-Man is swinging through the city and they're in the same city. Hawkeye does not live there. He is there temporarily saving the day. Right. So do we see Peter Parker running into Hawkeye, the episode that airs after being episode 6, the finale, right after No Way Home, or maybe even this week, the penultimate episode?
It's a great question, Kirk. It's not one that I'd pondered. I am going to vote no.
Let's do this first. Does he show up at all in Hawkeye?
Peter Parker?
Yes.
I go no.
I gotcha.
I go no. I think it depends on how successful this musical is. Maybe it's been running for, maybe it's running in the winter. Maybe it goes all the way through. Maybe it keeps its residency there at the theater. I don't know, but I don't think it's a coincidence, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I still think it's a long shot Peter Parker appears, but there's got to be some sort of something there.
Right. My hope is that, sometimes we get these, not gimmicky, but we get the more lighthearted post-credit scenes. Yeah. I would hope that we do get Tom Holland in Hawkeye. He's walking out of the theater. Hawkeye is just walking down the street to get somewhere. And maybe he's walking to the subway to go to the airport, whatever. And I hope that he walks out of it and he says, have you seen it? But not in his British voice.
Yeah. Let's hope not. That would be really bad.
And I feel like there could be a fun moment there. Otherwise, do I see him as Spider-Man in the series? Probably not. But man, I mean, why would they do it? Why do they do anything they do anymore, Cam? It's absolute chaos.
It is chaos. They throw so many things your way that it's hard to know what's just for fun and what's for real,
Yes. Oh my goodness. And then one other question I have, because I have lots of speculation from this episode, then I want to hear anything you've got left that we haven't touched base on. The LARPers, the live action role players. I thought was a gimmick at the beginning of this when we first got to them, but they really intertwined them in a more substantial way this episode, which I'm excited about. Do we think there's a hidden LARPer that becomes a superhero out of this crew? Or is this strictly just for, let's use the community, let's everyone can be a hero? Is it more of that sentiment?
I mean, maybe not a superhero, but maybe involved in some way. I mean, they use characters, like I said before, the one guy's name is Grills, and that's a character name from the comics, who's a close friend of Clint's and his neighbor, actually. So it's possible, them resurfacing was a bit of a fun surprise. I really enjoyed that, but it is certainly possible that one of them ends up, one of them is a police officer, and they have her bag full of the arrows that's embroidered that says bombshell on it. Maybe maybe she goes on to become a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent or something fun like that. It sort of remains to be seen, but I don't think it'll be anything too significant.
Beautiful. I love it. I got to know, do you have anything you want to talk about that we've not discussed yet?
Well, I mean, I think the almost literal elephant in the room is Kingpin, right?
Yes.
I mean, there were lots of rumors that he was going to appear. I was half expecting a post-credit scene after episode 4 that would show him, pulling the strings somewhere. My current take on that is that he will appear post-credit scene. I think he will have one of the 2 post-credit scene slots, and it will just be him. This will be after No Way Home. Maybe they show Kingpin in No Way Home. I certainly think Matt Murdock appears in No Way Home. Which would then, as we theorized earlier, open the door for them to do a Kingpin reveal in the final episode. But at this point, I think it's going to be very small. I don't expect him to be sort of the big bad, the final showdown by any means, because he's just too big for that.
Right. Yeah, but then we didn't get enough Kingpin now because, granted, we had the whole Marvel Daredevil series, but there's a significant amount of people who have never watched that, even though... Yeah. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And there's going to be a little bit of rebranding for Kingpin in order to reintroduce him to people, which is fascinating because that show was like all Marvel. It was the edgy Marvel, but it was all Marvel. It was so well done. But now we have to get just people need to know him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle the tradition. And I think the big question that continues to linger out there is like, we feel very close to a Matt Murdock reveal, very, very close to a Vincent D'Onofrio Kingpin reveal. Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, like are those guys in play? Are those actors in play? Is that all canon? I mean, that's huge. That knowing that will be huge, and maybe this takes place post Spider-Man, and that's why Kingpin's around. Ooh. I don't know. So many options on the table, but I do think that that's the one big lingering question that will come out of this series.
When you look at the Disney Plus timeline, it makes sense where it's at. It's near the end. It's in phase 4, but I wonder if they're gonna trick us as they like to do and just like zoop zoop, move
for sure.
left to right.
For sure, yeah, they do that stuff all the time. They like the bait and switch is their favorite move. They love to. I mean, just think of the in-game trailers, the Infinity War trailers that were clearly not the final product. How many things they removed and added and put significance on. I mean, they're crafty guys for sure.
They are. In the previous world, pre MCU, whatever you saw in the trailer was what you saw in the movie, and so they were careful to put that in. But no, MCU's like, here's a random scene that we're not going to use just to trick you all.
I was just thinking the other day, I was like, surely they're going to have a red carpet premiere for No Way Home, but can they even do that? Because any photos come from that. And it's, Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire, like that blows up the whole thing. So I don't know what they're going to do about that.
Right. Or they would just say, hey, you're not invited. You guys can't come.
You guys cannot come. You can't be there.
We'll have a separate premiere and you guys will walk the carpet like the day after or something. I don't know. But man, this episode, jam-packed, very good pace, not too confusing, not too overloaded. It really was such a good pace and such a good storytelling just rollout. Anything else you got to say about this, Cam? Ready for episode 5? What you want in episode 5? Anything you want to get off your chest?
I think we've covered it, but I think the big thing that we need to know coming out of this series is where Yelena Belova stands with Hawkeye. Is he still primary target number 1? Are they cool? Does he just evade her and roll out? I think that has to be answered for us to know where she stands going forward with Val and everything else that we know that she's going to be involved in.
Safe to say, I think we see Yelena in at least one more of our final 2 episodes. Episode 5 of Hawkeye dropping this coming Wednesday on Disney Plus, and then the following night, if you're an early premiere like us, Spider-Man No Way Home, number 3 of the Tom Holland sequel. Of trilogy 1, I should say.
That's
and
right.
Trilogy 2 is on its way. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Spilled Popcorn. We will talk with you soon. That's Cam.
What's up? See you later.
We'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Peace.